We have just completed the phase one of LSC across the time span of 3 years. And we developed various assets as well as advocated for life skills education in India. The second phase of this project is supposed to begin this year. So what is LSC? LSC is a collaborative of 18 partner organizations, all aligned to give a big thrust to life skills education in our country. TTF has been the partner organization tasked with the responsibility of developing the India Glossary of Life Skills. Whenever you get time, you all can just Google India Glossary of Life Skills or LSC or Life Skills Collaborative, and you will be able to see the work we have done in the space of life skills. As we are truly proud to have developed a deck of 52 life skills for the India Glossary, each described and defined in ways that make the life skills accessible to curriculum developers, teachers, and government departments. We also have developed accompanying audio-visual resources for the glossary, which will be made available to the ecosystem in the coming months. Today, we will be examining one of the 7 skill tags in the India Glossary of Life Skills. Skill tags are nothing but an umbrella or a group of skills that can develop and operate together in an individual. Today, we are going to discuss one such group of skills, which is called thinking skills. As the title of the webinar reads, Thinking Skills as Life Skills. My two wonderful colleagues, Kritika Mahajan and Surya Hariharan, will be facilitating this session further and take you all through various aspects and applications of thinking skills as life skills for young people. Do feel free to interact by raising your hands and messaging in the Zoom chat box. We are also live streaming this session on YouTube, so our YouTube audiences can feel free to comment and ask questions. Our colleagues will definitely pick up a few questions, which we will be very keen to answer right at the end of the session. So from here over to you, Kritika, and then Surya.
Thank you, Monila. Hello, everyone. I am Kritika.
And I am Surya. And together, the both of us will be facilitating this webinar and presenting it to you.
Thank you all for joining us on this lovely Monday afternoon. Before we delve into our main topic, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge. Here is a puzzle for all of you. I would request you to type your solutions on chat. Please take a few seconds to respond to the question and write your solutions on chat. Surya, after a few seconds, I'd request you to read out the responses.
Sure. As soon as responses come in, I will. For participants, it would also help if you can tell us which one is which number belongs to which. Okay, yes, we have answers coming in now. So Amita says watermelon is 12. Then we have someone saying 11 and 6. Someone saying 12, 8 and 5. Someone says orange is 8.
Looks like we have a lot of responses.
Yes.
So our participants are well engaged. Okay. Surya, what do you think about the responses?
No, they have
enthusiastically participated.
I see a lot of different combinations of 12, 8 and 5, which is, yes.
So that means we can say that many of you have cracked the puzzle. You have got the right solutions. Now let's take some time to talk about what skills you used to solve the puzzle. I repeat the question. What skills and approaches did you use to solve this puzzle? Please type your responses again on chat.
Okay, so we have some. Some of them are saying thinking skills. Mohammed Salman just said thinking skills, critical thinking, logic, thinking skills such as analyzing, calculations, problem solving. Again, thinking skills, reasoning, comprehension, analyzing, critical thinking, logical thinking.
Wow, that's nice. Such a nice range of responses. So we request you to keep this enthusiasm going throughout the webinar. As we see here, based on the responses that we have received, it's apparent that the word thinking is common among most of these responses. For example, problem solving, logical reasoning, and some other responses that Surya read out, thinking emerges as the common thread. And friends, this sets the stage for our further discussion on thinking is a life skill. Before we proceed, I'd like to share the objectives of this webinar with you. We will start by examining the definition of thinking skills given by the LSE India Glossary of Life Skills. We will then establish the importance of developing thinking skills. And lastly, discuss ways in which teachers can foster thinking skills among students. So let's get started. And what better way to start with the question? Here is a question for all of you. What do you associate with the term thinking skills? I request all of you to access menti.com on your phones and enter the code as given on the screen. Or you could also use the link given on chat. Surya, can we please have the Mentimeter link on chat? You can either access menti.com and enter the code 5709-6166. Alternatively, you could also use the link that's given on chat. So we already have some responses here. Great. I'll just read out some of these words. So people here are saying analysis, critical thinking, comprehension, perspective taking. Wow, these are all some meaningful words that you connect with the term thinking skills. We have brainstorming, logical, correlation. I would like you to notice that some words here in the word cloud are appearing bigger than the others. This means that these words or these terms have been typed frequently than the others. This is amazing. We have a great range of responses. Yes, we have the word brain here, solving a problem, mental process, cognition, brain activity, mind, processing, creativity. Yes, I would say these are creative and interesting responses. So friends, it will help if we keep these words in our mind as we move forward. So this is how we understand the term thinking skills. I would say that we are absolutely on the right track. But let's see how LSE India Glossary defines thinking skills. Okay. Is the LSE India website visible on screen? Can anyone please confirm?
Yes.
Thank you. So friends, let's take some time to go through the definition and scope of thinking skills as per LSA India Glossary for Life Skills.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to read the definition. Some of you can just see it on screen. I'll just read it. Thinking in skills involve mental processes that we apply when we seek to make sense of any experience. They refer to the human capacity to think in conscious ways to achieve certain purposes. Thinking skills enable us to integrate each new experience into the schema that we're constructing of how things are. These skills need to extend to what we see, what we understand, and what we can demonstrate to others. There are a large collection of individual skills and strategies that enable us to monitor and regulate our learning and memory. Thinking skills are necessary tools in a society characterized by rapid change, many alternative actions, and demand for numerous individual and collective choices and decisions. They are essential in understanding how to learn and are considered to be integral to higher order cognitive learning. The guiding principle in the thinking skills movement is the idea that individuals will learn to think better if effort and attention is paid to teaching them how to do so.
Thank you, Surya, for reading the definition. I see there are some common words between what the participants in the webinar have written on Mentimeter and what is given by LSA India Glossary. For example, learning, higher order cognition, and also memory. So as I said, yes, we are all on the right track to build our understanding of thinking skills. I would like to draw your attention towards LSC India Glossary, defining thinking skills as a skill tag. It is not a standalone skill. It encompasses or it includes a range of life skills. Friends, we are providing the link to the LSC website on chat for your reference. For now, I'm going to familiarize you with the skills that are included under the umbrella of thinking skills tag. But yes, as I shared, please feel free to use the link to access the website and read about all these life skills in detail. Out of the 52 life skills that LSA India Glossary lists, here we have 26 skills, meaning 26 skills require thinking as a fundamental process. Let me take you through these life skills quickly. Analytical thinking, cognitive flexibility, conflict resolution, creative thinking, critical thinking, curiosity, decision-making, delayed gratification, ecological literacy, financial literacy, ICT literacy, information synthesis, learning to learn, literacy, logical thinking, mastery orientation, media literacy, metacognition. This also includes negotiation, numeracy, perspective taking, planning, problem solving, resourcefulness, social awareness, and transformational entrepreneurship. So as you see here, this is a bunch of life skills that require thinking as a basic process. We are curious to know which of these life skills took you by surprise. Are there some life skills that were unexpected, or perhaps you were unfamiliar with these skills? Please share your responses on chat. These could also be some life skills that you have not linked to thinking till now, and it's the first time that you are reading it on the LSE website.
we have one response until now. It says curiosity. So Sumati believes that curiosity is something.
Is that curiosity?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we were curious to know, and we have the skill curiosity. Great.
Okay, we have more coming in. Reflections, mastery orientation.
Mastery orientation. Yes, absolutely. As it is evident from the Mentimeter word cloud and also the definition that is given by LSC, we now know that thinking skills is a very complex term. It includes a lot of related life skills under the umbrella in its name. Let's see why there is such an emphasis or focus on thinking skills, and why all of us as educators, as school leaders, teachers, in our capacity, how is it that we should focus on thinking skills? Why should we prioritize this aspect in schools? Next up, we have some data that talks about the need to focus on thinking skills, why it is imperative for us to foster thinking skills among students.
Kritika, will you just share screen?
Shared.
Is this slide visible now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so what you see on screen is data from an SEL assessment tool, which is called Sambhav. This is an assessment tool to sort of measure students' social emotional skills. This is data from rural Bengaluru, where we conducted this assessment with about 450 students aged 9 to 10. They study in grades 4 and 5. What you can see in the graph is this graph shows student scores for different skills. And we've seen that these are skills that require thinking. For example, just a second. Yeah. For example, in the first skill, you see that I'm not able to see the presentation. I'm so sorry. One
Kritika,
minute.
you just speak then.
Yeah.
Is this visible now, Surya?
Now
Or
it's
should I
visible. I'm so sorry. Now it's visible. Yes.
No.
So yeah, in the first skill, which says that students are able to identify problems and conflicts commonly experienced by peers, only about 50% of students have been able to give the right answer for this sort of a question, where a situation is presented in front of them and they have to choose the right answer. In the second skill, students are able to recognize causes and consequences of conflicts. Again, about 50% of students are able to answer this correctly. For the third skill, you'll see that there's a huge nosedive in the right answer given by children, which is students are able to use constructive approaches in resolving conflicts. So we see over here that a lot of these skills like conflict resolution, negotiation, perspective taking, and social awareness are not really being exhibited by students. And these are very important critical thinking skills that students need to have at this age. And we're already seeing that these skills are not actively being developed in children. Kritika can take us through some more data as we move ahead.
As Surya said, there is a shortage, there is a dearth of thinking skills among students. Let's see how this corroborates with data obtained from an employer survey. the data here, these visuals here depict data that was collected from a survey done in 2018 by SHRM, that stands for Society for Human Resource Management. This 2018 survey was conducted with more than 650 employers and over 1,500 students. Let's read some of the major portions of this finding. As we see here, 64% of employers face difficulty in finding qualified applicants with critical thinking skills. The second visual here depicts that over 70% of employers recognize the need, the importance of a set of specific life skills in achieving leadership positions at their organizations. Friends, I would like to draw your attention towards this segment, this section of the visual. Here we see that skills related to memory and the repetitive task executions, these skills are not much in demand these days. The demand for these kind of skills is declining. I would like to stop on this slide for 3 to 4 seconds for you all to make some more sense of this. So based on the findings of these two studies, one that Surya shared, a recent TTF assessment done with students, and the findings from this survey done with employers, can confidently assert that there is an urgent need for us as educators to focus on fostering, developing thinking skills among students. We see that there is a significant gap between what our schools and colleges are preparing students for and what employers out there are actually seeking. So in order to bridge this gap, what is required is that all of us make efforts to foster thinking skills, to give students enough opportunities, experiences, so that they can develop a variety of life skills that relate with thinking. This aligns very well with this renowned quote by Martin Luther King Jr. that goes as, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." Friends, before we proceed, we would like you to share some comments or questions on chat so that we know that you're all with us, and we'll be happy to answer the questions that you have. Please feel free to write your comments and questions on chat. We'll wait for a few seconds here. What are some of your key takeaways, some main thoughts that are on your mind based on what we have covered till now? Surya, do we have some responses from our
We have one
members?
question on chat which says, are we not always thinking?
Are we not always thinking? Okay. What a
And then
wonderful question.
There's
Yeah.
another comment which says human skills rather than machine skills. So I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of the data that you had shared.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that bit. If you don't mind, could you please repeat? Human
Yes.
skills?
Human skills rather than machine skills. So
So we are
things can be
surrounded
automated.
by machines all over. We are talking about artificial intelligence using ChatGPT. That's why I find this visual to be very, very impressive, saying that computer, tech skills, or the ability to repeat tasks, these are not what employers are actually seeking. And to go back to that question, aren't we always thinking? Yes, I agree. We are always thinking. We're always thinking about making our students think. But what kind of thinking? What kind of opportunities, plans, and experiences are we developing that really help students to think in a logical way, to think about their own thinking, to be able to negotiate with others using logical thoughts and valid thoughts is what we all need to focus on.
We have just some more questions. I'll read them out quickly, and maybe we can sort of address them collectively, and
Sure.
maybe some will get addressed as we move ahead. We have a question that says, how do we teach these skills? And I think that's an important part of the next part of the webinar. We'll touch upon it. They obviously have to be developed, isn't it? There's a comment that says, thinking is so critical and yet it isn't taught as real skills. Human skills need to be worked on. Teachers too need to learn to resolve conflicts. Are our
Absolutely.
classrooms thinking spaces for students? How to promote questioning in class? Oh, there are a lot of questions right now.
It's wonderful to have these thoughts. And the fact that I really like that question, aren't we always thinking? And many of these comments and questions are in alignment. So what is it that we are doing in classrooms to foster thinking, to develop thinking skills among students? And this brings us to the next segment of our webinar. I request Surya to lead the conversation.
Thank you so much, Kritika. Yes. Before we move into this section, I see a lot of questions on chat, and there are a lot about, how do we develop these skills in students? Can we do it? Do we have the time? How can we improve small kids' thinking skills? We will try to touch upon all of these. But before that, let's just get into a video right now. This is a video interview of Professor Sundar Sarukai, who is a professor of philosophy. He in this interview, he's just talking a little bit about thinking itself as a concept and the various aspects of thinking. At the same time, how he tries to teach his students of philosophy thinking. So, Kritika, if you can just share the video, it will be a good watch for all of our participants.
Please confirm if you're able to see and hear the video.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks.
So thinking is in that sense nothing but a processing of this data which comes into the human system through the five senses. And what does it mean to process it? There are different ways of processing it. So for example, when I see an object in front of me, let's say a chair, even when I say this is a chair or this chair is brown in color, it's not a statement of my perception, it's not a statement of what I am seeing. It's a statement of my thinking about what I am seeing. What I am seeing are just some blobs of color, some sense data related color and shape. There's another reason why thinking also becomes very important. It is this very unique capacity for human thought to produce knowledge even when there is no experience. This kind of pure thinking, not thinking about the sense data, but thinking by itself produces the highest form of knowledge, like mathematics and logic. So there is a great value placed to thinking, and in fact that influences the way our education system has become, where all our schools are about sitting in classroom, not using the body, it is just using the mind. Critical thinking is form of thinking which allows you to question authority in very specific ways. So it's not about fighting with authority, but being able to say what seems reasonable to me, how can I reason something on my own, and that's very different from saying I think it is the case or I believe this is the case, therefore it's true. And problem solving of course is very important because it brings thinking into the practical domain, which is why the function of thinking is so important. Thinking is also about guessing, trying to make sense of your perspective. So if somebody has a particular view about something, the point is not to say I agree with you or I disagree with you, but to ask why would you be saying that? To be able to project myself into the other person's worldview and then try to make sense of it. Many students have questions they don't ask. It's, as you can see in a lot of gender studies on education. In a classroom, very boisterous people can be boys, and there are many girls who would have things to say but they just keep quiet. It is not that they're not having questions, but it needs, for that thinking skill to come, you need social conditions to enable it. We can't just say thinking is just about asking questions and have critical attitude. You have to build the social conditions, those skill sets needed to be able to tell these people, yeah, it's okay, you say it. And how you respond to it is so important, because once you respond badly to them, they're not going to again ever open their mouth in the class. Even to teach specific so-called cognitive skills, including logical, critical, analytical thinking, it needs to be supported with other skills of learning to listen to others, learning to see things from their perspective, learning to respect others' positions of where they come from, the difficulties that they have, and so on. I think one can develop these thinking skills by first producing a consciousness, being aware of the processes of thinking. What does thinking mean to me? So this is the strategy I use in my workshop. I don't begin with an answer. I don't give them a theory of thinking. I don't tell them this is what thinking is. So I ask them to experience thinking. What is their experience of thinking? If I tell them to think, what do they do? Can they recognize what's happening to them when they think? What is it that they start using when I tell them, okay, why don't you think about something? So that internal awareness of that process of thinking, to me, was a very important way to enter them into the world of thinking. So when you ask what can adults do, the first thing I try and do when I do these workshops is that I am at their level. What I mean by that level is I am in their world. So I don't come with my experiences, my examples, what I think is right for them. I wait for them to produce examples. I wait for them to articulate what their world is. And then I have to work within that world to show where the processes of thinking, and the beauty about philosophy is you can take the world of a 3-year-old child and work with it to show where are all the basic themes of philosophy coming from. There's been a long historical belief that thinking skills are very closely related to certain masculine qualities, and in the binary of reason, thinking versus emotion, it has always been between male and female. Female as being associated with emotions and male associated with thinking, logic, etc. That holding this belief is a terribly mistaken position to take. And the reason is as follows. It's like cooking as other example I can tell you here. One is that you may have different ingredients, but cooking is a process which can be the same even when the ingredients are very different. So thinking, if seen as a process, is this cooking process. But the question of gender, what it does is it brings in different ingredients and contents. So I want to use this concept formation as a way of showing why these differences in gender might arise. We all of us can look at the same thing and produce different ways of understanding them, different ways of describing them, new concepts. And which means that the way concepts are produced come from our experiences. If I have very different experiences, I can produce a different concept. And what is special? And what is it that differentiates men and women, or different genders, not just men and women, or your different kinds of the differently abled people of different capacities, are their experiences are different. So because their experiences are different, while the process of cooking or thinking may be the same, the ingredients are also very different than us. And that's why our education system is such a problem, because it's very dominated by one particular vision of one particular kind of students. Those are your ideal students, but a completely different vision of the world by the differently able produces different knowledge, and it is as deep thinking.
Thank you so much for showing that. And I hope all of us enjoyed watching the video. Before we move ahead and look at discuss this a little more, just thoughts on the video. Any main ideas that emerged from the video? Any points that you felt really stood out? Any point that you feel you need to explore further? Please do put it on chat, and then we'll move forward. Okay, we have Bhishma saying social conditions, respecting each other's perspectives are very important. Concepts develop in our mind through our experiences. Absolutely. Critical thinking and questioning authority. That's an interesting point that came out. Overthinking. Just care to open up that a little bit, like overthinking in what sense?
Yes. Person who has written overthinking, we would love to know your thoughts. Do please elaborate. You can unmute and speak.
Well done. Yes. Otherwise, we have thinking from the perspective of students also becomes an important aspect. Teachers should also feel confident to handle students who can think and question. Absolutely. Um, I wonder why the word handle is there. I think it would be great for us to have children who can think and question. But yes, definitely. I think the teacher's attitude also towards these sort of children who are questioning. Okay, so while responses keep coming on chat, oh wow, there's suddenly a lot more responses. Each child's thinking skill is different and to be motivated. Thinking is a process like cooking. Absolutely, he says that. With different ingredients for thinking. The analogy to cooking, someone else has also mentioned it. Conditioned thinking can fetch good results, but does not help in the long run. Okay, that's quite deep and profound. I feel we can get into it a little bit. Critical thinking and asking questions in a simple way. Importance of creating the right atmosphere in a classroom to encourage students to think and seek answers as well. Absolutely. And I feel like we can go into this, the concept of pure thinking. Okay, so I think we can just move directly into some of the key ideas that emerge and what are the implications for us as educators, right? These were some questions that you had asked us earlier. So one of the things that definitely comes out is the thinking process itself, right? Becomes very, very important for us to to sort of make the thinking process come alive in the classroom. And I think the way to do that is by actually thinking aloud in class. I know that many of you would have heard of this, verbalizing your thinking. I think that this character would feel this way because, and all of that. Or I'm thinking that if I have to do this operation, these are the things I need to do. So making that thinking process come alive is something that we as educators can do in class. Another important thing was empathy and perspective taking, and I think that came out in many of your responses. It's very important to understand the other person's point of view. I think debates are great ways to do this. Whenever there's a conflict, trying to resolve it in class helps you take the perspective of the other person. So that is another aspect of it. Another aspect is social conditions. Creating the right social conditions so that you can enable equality in class. So, I mean, again, what are these social conditions? It could be making sure that there is equality. One very simple way to do it, and that's something that TTF always tells teachers to use, is ice cream sticks to ensure that everyone gets an opportunity. Creating a safe environment, through circle time and, ensuring that there's a respectful environment and no one cuts down each other's opinions. I think that becomes very important. Creating an environment where mistakes are welcome and success is also celebrated at the same time. These are ways in which we can create great social conditions to enable thinking in class for students? And finally, I think this is also a question that one of you had asked. How do we provide students more opportunities for questioning in class? One very simple way to do it actually is, as educators and teachers, we reduce our own talk time in class and give students a lot more time. But apart from that, we also give them a lot of hints, use strategies to enable questioning, like you can get them to write their questions on post-its. We can ask them, simple things like ensuring there is some wait time after students ask a question, not cutting down students' answers, but asking them to explain their thinking. I feel like these are all different ways in which we can ensure as educators that students are thinking in class. I see that there are a lot of comments on chat too. We will actually just move ahead now. We'll have a poll right now. Kritika, could you just, yes. So now, this is also connected to what we were talking about until now, which is how can we enable thinking in class. So these are some classroom scenarios for us to just see and analyze. And just in each of these situations, we have to think of what are the thinking skills that are enabled or impeded in the scenarios. I hope it's clear to our participants. A poll will come live, and we just need to think of which skills are enabled or impeded by the teacher or by the classroom interaction.
You've launched the poll. Is it visible on screen?
Not yet. No. No.
Are you able to see the Zoom poll?
No. No.
Please let me know if it's visible now.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Please note, we have a total of 3 questions. I request you to scroll down once you are done with the first question to find the second and third question. Please take your time to think through it, and you can select more than one options. I repeat, you're allowed to select more than one options for each of the questions.
Okay, we can see some responses, but yeah, we'll just wait for more time. There are a lot more people who can participate, only about 8
Yes,
out of 90
as
are
of now, we
participating.
have 8. We'll wait for about 2 more minutes.
Kritika, Sandhya wants you to read the scenarios for the YouTube viewers.
Absolutely. The first scenario is teacher divides the class into 2 teams, proponents and opponents. Each team prepares their arguments for and against the topic. Students should be allowed to have cell phones in school. Both the teams then present their views. Teacher conducts a class vote to determine which team presented the most convincing arguments. This is the first classroom scenario. The options we have here are negotiation, transformational entrepreneurship, planning, perspective taking, critical thinking, numeracy. Friends, you can write in YouTube chat as to which life skills, which thinking skills you think are being impeded or are being fostered in this classroom scenario. I'll just wait for a few seconds and then I'm going to read out the second scenario. For all those who have joined us on YouTube, the second scenario is two students in the class engage in a verbal argument. They approach the teacher complaining about each other. The teacher intervenes promptly and tells both students to sit far away from each other. Friends, the question is the same. Which thinking skills are enabled or impeded in this scenario? And the options for this particular questions are negotiation, delayed gratification, social awareness, literacy, perspective taking, or conflict resolution. Feel free to type more than one life skill.
Hello.
Here is the third classroom scenario. In a high school physics class, the teacher is discussing Newton's law of motion. A student raises their hand and asks, "Can you give one example of how Newton's second law applies to a real life?" The teacher immediately jumps in to explain by providing examples. Which thinking skills do you think are being encouraged or impeded here? The options are learning to learn, logical thinking, planning, master reorientation, media literacy, and decision making. We have
Okay.
about 56% of our members have participated, have already responded to the poll. Surya, do you think we should wait for just a last 1 minute?
Yes, we'll last minute. I think once the poll
Okay.
reaches 6 minutes, we can just start discussing the answers. So others, yes, please do respond. We have around 75% participants, and it will be great.
I'll end the poll now.
Yes, you can end the poll and you can share the results for our participants
Yes.
to see.
So here are the results.
Okay, so for the first classroom scenario where the teacher has conducted a debate between two teams, this is something that can happen in class, that we as educators can do in class, and like most of you have actually answered, it does. What are the skills that something like this will actually enable? It will enable critical thinking. It enables perspective taking, because in a debate you're trying to, so if I find out what the other person's perspective is, what their point is. Planning is also, like the third closest answer over here. And definitely planning is also something which is important in a debate. You need to plan out how you're going to put down all your points and all of that, right? So again, it's just an example of a situation where we can enable certain thinking skills. The second scenario, in which two students in the class engage in a verbal argument and they approach their teacher, the teacher just tells both of them to sit far away from each other. I know as educators, we would always think that we need to address it better at that point of time. But sometimes, in the heat of the lesson and when we're doing class, it's very difficult to address it at that point of time. So maybe, yes, the students are separated. But if not at that point of time, at least at a slightly later point, it becomes very, very important to get students to talk to each other and learn the skill of conflict resolution, which most of you have chosen over here, right? It becomes very important as a skill that as teachers, we need to get these students to engage in. And social awareness also definitely, and perspective taking is also something that comes as a close third. And perspective taking is also something that would be impeded if the teacher doesn't get the students to later discuss it. And then finally, the third scenario where if when I read it, I feel like, hey, the physics teacher actually did the right thing. He gave an example. The child was curious and the teacher gave an example. Absolutely. But I feel again, in these situations, it's important for us to think what thinking skills might have been impeded. Right over here, for example, like many of you have put down, learning to learn and logical thinking are actually skills that are impeded, because although the child did ask, I feel like it was a great opportunity for the teacher to get students to think about it themselves, to talk to each other and discuss, and how can they learn to learn. That's also an important skill that could be impeded if the teacher just jumps into answer and then continues with the lesson. Maybe after giving an example, it would also sort of help to get the students to think about another example, right? So these were just a few examples of classroom scenarios that we as educators can use um, to ensure that these thinking skills are taught to students in class. And these are, of course, things that we have in mind as educators all the time. There were some questions which mentioned how is it that we can do it? There are so many other things to do. I feel like there are a lot of very simple things that can be done during the course of our own classroom teaching. It doesn't require anything extra, but then I think we just need to do it a little mindfully. And to end, we will just end with quote, which is the critical role of teachers in schools. This is a quote attributed to none other than Albert Einstein, which is, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Thank you, everyone. If any of you have any more questions, comments, actually, before we leave, there is one question we'd want to leave you with. And then after that, if you have any comments, we did discuss some scenarios, but what are some challenges that you foresee in fostering thinking skills among students? Please do respond on chat, and I think we'll also get a better idea of what these challenges could be.
Yes, please write on chat. And we can also have some participants unmute the mic and share. What are some challenges, hurdles that you foresee in developing or in encouraging thinking skills among students?
Okay, so we have one response which says children's exposure to too much media can be a challenge. I feel like it can also be something that we can use and leverage over here, because it becomes important to choose different forms of media and then critically analyze which is correct, which is not, what are the sources and all of that. So definitely, when two students fight in class, I make them sit in one corner and make them discuss what they're fighting and how they can overcome it. It helps. Teachers should be very much updated
Absolutely.
with facts and technology. Otherwise, it's a challenge for us. Sure.
And we have media literacy as one of the life skills that comes under the ambit of thinking skills.
Definitely. I see that social media is also a challenge. Definitely. I mean, it is a challenge, but I feel again, as educators, it becomes our role to, ensure that students are using social media responsibly. And, how are they using it and not misusing it? Fail to get independent to share ideas, still focus on the correct answer. If I understand that right, um, I feel as teachers, I think what you're trying to say is, as teachers or as educators, we try to focus on the right answer rather than getting students to be independent and share their own ideas. The present generation students don't like to think. Instead, they want instant answers. How to encourage them to think? I mean, yes, we have access to Google. Google gives us an answer immediately. But I think again, these classroom scenarios become very important in ensuring that students are thinking and not. It shouldn't be answer focused. It should be thinking focused.
Surya, if I may come in here, I also
Yes.
remember that you said that as teachers, we need to model how thinking is done. So when students see that as teachers, we let them stay with the question for some time, they will be definitely encouraged to find solutions, to discuss solutions with each other. We also have one question from our YouTube participants on YouTube. The question is regarding syllabus constraints. We have so much portion to cover. How is it that we foster thinking skills? So our response to that is that through the syllabus, through the curriculum itself, we are designing opportunities and tasks that help students think critically, logically, and come up with their solutions. So it's, as Surya said earlier, there is nothing special or extra apart from the curriculum that we are trying to include to foster thinking skills. It's through the regular classroom teaching that thinking must be given a lot more importance.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Thank you so much for participating so well. I mean, there were a lot of comments. I feel like there was a lot of engagement. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Here is a feedback form for all of you. Please do fill up the feedback form, and after you do it, you will also get your certificate. You can use the link that's provided on chat. And please do follow us on these social media platforms. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, everyone. We wish you a good day ahead.